Good afternoon. If you'd be so kind as to introduce yourself.
My name is Mimo Morreale, and I was a worship leader and a one of the lead staff team at Life in Deep Ellum.
In that capacity, what would can you kind of just describe what you your leadership roles look like in terms of discipleship or educating the other members of the staff or the congregation?
So when I did that right after college, um, when I graduated from SAGU, and I originally went on to be a part of their main outreach over there, which is the coffee shop arts venue. But then I was handed over, kind of coordinating the worship team. And so I found myself working for this thing that I believed in, and I felt like I was working more than I was doing like spiritually type of stuff. And early on, I felt like God told me, lead the worship team. Like that's what you're doing, so invest in those people. So that was kind of my main area of leadership. I felt like besides the act of Sunday morning when we're singing and we're leading the congregation, I felt like what my job to do was to encourage the worship team and kind of develop them as like worshipers or leaders of worship. Because our thing, even before I was the main coordinator, that's kind of how I like to refer myself to. Um, the person before me had established that like there was multiple leaders. We wouldn't have the same person up in front every Sunday leading the songs, and so really just kind of working with those people who are all older than me also.
What was that? What would be, do you think, the greatest challenge that you had coming into that position?
For our church, the greatest challenge was creating cohesion in the team, I think. um, the mindset that we had in the culture, because Life in New Bellum is kind of a more loosely structured church, and it was people who were kind of in different phases of life. So some transient people, some people were on our worship team who the only time they were there on a Sunday was when they were playing with us. Other than that, they may have had a job that they had to work every Sunday. And those are the type of people we had. So it was very different from a typical worship team where you have a Tuesday practice and then you play on Sunday. It's like we had to practice Sunday morning, and then play Sunday morning, and that was pretty much it. And that was a big challenge, kind of coordinating everyone's schedules.
That's good. What kind of fruit do you think you saw from your time there? Is,
Well, um, kind of connected to that too was with our church was more missional, and I was also the leader of this other big outreach. So my time was split, and that was part of the other challenge. Um, but even within that, I felt like I should be leading the worship team through worship on our own and kind of developing things. So I would always try to send encouraging emails with the set list that would guide people's thought and prayer. And we would do a few worship nights together or like a worship retreat. But one of the greatest fruits, like tactically, that I can gauge since then, I would say, was working through the Celebration of Discipline with the Worship Team by Richard Foster. Because I found out that not all of the team had read it or even heard of it. And when I was going through college, Garland Owensby had us working with it for our discipleship class, and I just felt like it was so pivotal, especially for worship leaders, to be engaged in that. And since then, all the worship team are still reading it and actually recommending it to others and reading through it with other people. So it's kind of like I all I did was tell them about the book, and we worked through it together and talked about some themes, but those people are still kind of doing that. And that's like one of the fruits of that.
Sounds good. Any of the aside from that book, do you have any other resources that were really helpful for you?
Um, I don't think so as it relates to the team particularly. I mean, as far as like I took it and gave it to them in some kind of format. I was really reading a lot of Brendan Manning at the time, and I know that always came through when I would speak on Sunday mornings during our worship sets and to the team, but it wasn't like formatted in any certain way. It was just kind of as I was reading it, I'm I'm talking about it with them because it's just I felt like it was applicable.
Gonna to help your mindset.
Yeah.
Well, that all sounds fantastic. I know that Life in Deep Ellum is still benefiting from your investment, uh, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Oh wait, so there's one other. Oh, I guess it doesn't have to be a long video.
Hmm, go for it.
Oh, I feel like one thing that set our church aside, and this is also not fully just my leadership, but um, aside from mainly focusing on the team, what I felt like I always still try to do in worship leading, and I would see some of the other, like the only person that was younger than me, my brother in law, Aaron, started to do it too, is kind of not talk too much and not use the worship set as a platform for us to be like mini preachers, but kind of talk people through what we're doing and inviting the congregation to be part of worshiping with us instead of just leading them in songs. And so that was something, actually, the only other intentional thing I felt like that I would do is just intentionally try to pray and think about what's going on, and when there was space for it, to talk people through like, okay, we're gonna sing this song together, and as we're singing this song, like pray about this or do this or um, whatever else.
Just a way of getting them to engage with the content.
Yeah,
Oh, that is excellent.
yeah, that's it.
No, and if you, I mean, if you have anything else to share,
No, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. The rotating team members was pretty cool, but that wasn't my deal. But it's like we had a team of 15 or 16 at the time, and so it's like you have 5 people on stage, and the rest of the worship leaders are leading worship by worshiping, which I always felt like was pretty cool. And they had breaks every other Sunday, or however many times, so we weren't getting burnt out. Like we were ministering to each other, but at the same time, like being a part of the congregation too. So it wasn't like superstars. And I always
awesome.
loved that about our worship team.
It's a
And
great.
that's
Thank you very much.
it. Yeah.